UFC 311 did not disappoint. We saw champions assert their dominance and contenders start to rise. Guys, we're going to cover all the goings on in UFC 311. Let's get stuck into it and let's start with the main event. Islam versus Renato Moicano was a fight that we didn't expect coming into UFC 311. The injury to Arman was a surprise to many. The back injury, which led him to lose his position, was very unfortunate, but one that led the opportunity for Moicano to step up. And he did step up, unfortunately, unsuccessfully. An absolutely dominant victory by the champion, Islam Makhachev. And he shows his control, he showed his dominance, he showed his power. In the opening seconds of the fight, it did look like Renato caught him with a good leg kick. Looked like he was, might cause him a little bit of trouble with his striking. He didn't seem to show a lot of fear, but once there was a scramble and Islam was able to get Moicano to the ground, he showed his quality, he showed his technique, allowing Renato to fall into a moment of confidence on the ground. He let him think that he could relax. Islam was very, very sly in the way he positioned himself, got his arm in the right position to execute the dart stroke, and the positioning, the squeeze that he can put on. Renato Moicano isn't the first one to say that the squeeze that Islam put on and the technique he applied was second to none, and it showed his quality, it showed his dominance. Again, as I said previously in the preview, Islam is someone who has grown on me. The way he's conducted himself, the way he's executed his performances on a high level. The two fights with Volk coming back from a decision and finishing that off with a first round finish. Yes, Renato Moicano was not the fight that we were expecting coming into fight week. However, it's the one that he got. He could have easily pulled out and said, I'm not fighting someone on such short notice. He did step up, he did win, and he won in dominant fashion. What else can you say? The next question is what's next for Islam? And for me personally, looking at the lightweight discussion, firstly, there's been a discussion around Arman Sarukian. Dana White said that Arman will not be fighting next for the lightweight championship. He said he has to earn his way back to that championship. I do think that's fair. That's unlike me and Dana to agree, to be honest with you. But Arman pulling out such late notice, and for the back injury where it was one where people are suspecting that he had weight cut issues. We don't know that for sure, so I'm not going to speculate. However, there were many videos on social media in the lead up to the fight where he seemed to be doing a lot of back workouts for social media. And so it was very surprising and very disappointing because I thought this was the perfect time for Arman to strike, and for him not to is an opportunity missed. But we look at the rest of the rankings. Charles Oliveira isn't someone I would say immediately I want to see that match against. I think Islam's style is going to be a very difficult one for Charles to overcome. Justin Gaethje again has been streaky. I'm not really overly impressed if he beats Dan Hooker in their next fight. I'm not going to be screaming for Justin Gaethje to be fighting Islam. I just don't think it's overly tough for Islam. Dustin Poirier, Islam's already beaten him. Max Holloway, I don't think the two have fought. Islam versus Max will be interesting, but Max again has to establish himself in the lightweight division. Dan Hooker, again, we've spoken about his fight. He would need a couple of fights before he's in the discussion. Chandler, again, Gamrot is someone who has the record, doesn't have the clout, and he would need to win probably another 2 or 3 on the bounce before being considered. Essentially, what I'm saying is I think it's time for Islam to fight for the welterweight championship. We need to find out the timing of Shavkat versus Bilal. That is a key fight in the division. I will not deny that. I think Shavkat potentially will have the skill set necessary to beat Bilal. However, the winner of that versus Islam, to me, makes too much sense. Arman can fight Charles again. Arman can fight a winner of Justin versus Dan. Whatever way we need to go about it. But I do think it's getting to a point maybe after one more fight where Islam should be fighting Bilal. I think regardless of the factors surrounding his fights, he has done what he's needed to do and he's shown his dominance as a champion. And I'm looking at the rest of the contenders and they don't make me excited at all. So the next one for me should be Islam versus Bilal, unless we're going to make Arman versus Islam next up. If we are going to make it, let's make it quick, because I'm still of the opinion, and I do agree with Dana, that pulling out at such late notice, that's an opportunity. Like, if you're going to give up, it has to be for good reason. And if you are giving it up, then there shouldn't really be a question if you have to earn your way back to it after a fight or maybe 2. So that's my opinion. Would love to see Islam fight for the welterweight championship when his time comes. Renato Moicano, he's had a disappointing experience fighting for the title. He says he wants to get back to that position. Cannot deny him for that. He will be looking, unfortunately for him, he will be looking down rather than up. He was meant to face Daniil. It looks now that there's a little bit of a rivalry between him and Paddy Pimblett. There was one brewing before this fight anyway, and so with the loss, Paddy was talking a little bit of trash. Renato's responded to it. Essentially, they're looking like this could be a fight. Again, would be a good fight for both men. Paddy can climb up if he has the ability to submit Renato. He's probably seen Islam do what he did and thinks I've got a good opportunity to do so. Renato will think I didn't have a full training camp to prepare for the champion. It was on 1 day notice and I stepped up and I can beat the likes of Paddy Pimblett, given the people that I've beaten in the past. So will be a good fight and hoping to see exciting fights in the future for both men. Moving on to a fight that I was very, very excited for, Merab versus Umar Nurmagomedov, and what a fight it was. What can we say about the champion Merab? What a fighter. Cardio for days, engine for days. The Machine nickname is not given lightly. The man is a cardio machine. He's a workhorse. He has an active pace that is hard to keep up with. Umar, with all his technical ability, I think we said it in the preview, with all that technical ability, all that great striking and good groundwork, is it going to match with the work rate and the constant takedown ability of Merab? And the answer was no. The first 2 rounds of the fight, I'll give it to Umar. He was in a position where he was looking very, very good, showing his striking, putting Merab in very difficult positions. He was even wrestling with Merab, taking Merab down. It looked like, wait, this could be a very, very difficult fight for Merab. But towards the end of the second round, beginning of the third, Merab really showed his quality. The gas tank was non-stop. You can see from his striking numbers, outstruck Umar. Also, the takedowns, he set a record with the amount of takedowns he attempted, 30 takedowns in a 5-round fight. That's crazy work rate. Absolutely crazy work rate. And for anyone who doubted him, because even me, as one of the biggest Merab fans, I had a little bit of doubt. Umar is one of the best bantamweights, and his skill set is a difficult one. However, Merab's one is probably more punishing, and he's shown it from his resume already. The likes of Jose Aldo, Henry Cejudo, Peter Yan, Sean O'Malley. He's done it against a lot of different styles, but his style is very, very difficult to deal with. No doubt about it. Showed his quality. Umar, I think, was shocked. He couldn't believe he lost. I think if he looks back on it, he'll see that in the end, he didn't have the stamina, the gas tank to match with Merab. He may be the better fighter in terms of, skill set, but in terms of an actual all-round fighter, including your heart, your determination, your gas tank, Merab showed he was the better fighter because he could keep going. He could have kept going for a number of different rounds. He was showboating at the end of the fight. He was taking out Umar for fun. He was stopping Umar from taking him down and showboating while he was doing it right in front of Khabib. I think the frustration there for Umar and his camp will be palatable. It looked like he would go on a perfect run to become champion. It looked like in the first 2 rounds that he was on course to potentially take him Merab into a very difficult position, but the quality showed, the work rate showed. And if you're going to prepare for a championship fight against Merab, prepare for 10 rounds. Don't prepare for 5, prepare for 10 rounds, because even in that 5th round, you need the gas tank necessary to win that fight. What a performance from Merab. He showcased his quality already, even after his first title defense. He's probably in the picture for one of the best bantamweights in history. Obviously, you've got the likes of Dominic Cruz, you've got the likes of Jose Aldo, you've got the likes of his friend Aljamain Sterling. Loads of names can be spoken about, but very few have the resume that he has with the names that he has. So how is he going to continue on his championship quest is going to be very interesting. Umar himself will need to bounce back. We'll take a look at the bantamweight division very, very briefly. The champion Merab is sitting very, very pretty. Who would I say for him next? The clear name to me is probably the rematch against Sean O'Malley. He was angling for it before. He definitely will want to make a money fight, another money fight, with Umar being out of the way. Peter Yan's position has probably opened up. Unless Peter Yan and Sean O'Malley are going to rematch, for me it makes sense for Merab to probably take on Sean, given his desire previously. Umar, on the other hand, there's a plethora of people he can go up against. I think his quickest way to the title will be against Peter Yan. Angle for that fight immediately, get that fight done, and you could be looking at 1 win and back in the title picture. 2 wins, potentially if the UFC want to make you earn it, and depending on what happens with Sean as well, given he is probably the biggest name in the division. So again, two fighters have done really, really well for themselves. Umar will be bitterly disappointed. His performance wasn't a bad one. He just could not hang with the cardio, with the pace that Merab was setting, and what a pace it was. Next up, we're going to cover the fight that I was looking forward to, because I said to you guys, somebody is getting knocked out. I don't know who, but someone's getting knocked out. And unfortunately for my friend Jamal Hill, it was him. It was him. But what a fight it was. Very, very competitive. Two men who are very aware of the power each man possessed. And I think Jamal Hill probably thought he could deal with Yuri's power a little bit better than he could, because Yuri's punches were hitting. And one thing I did notice from Yuri, and he talked about, is his defense was a little bit better. He wasn't as hittable as he normally is, don't get me wrong. He was hit, and he was hit well from Jamal Hill, but he took those shots relatively well. He kept moving, he kept coming through. Jamal looked like when he got caught by those punches, it stopped him for a little bit. And that was a little bit surprising to me. He did work a very technical, very solid striking game. I have to be honest with you, was very impressed from Jamal Hill and how he executed his game plan. But Yuri Prohaska has a way of catching you at the most awkward angles. And that's what he was catching Jamal Hill with. Awkward angles and difficult strikes to defend for Jamal Hill. And so Yuri showed his quality, knocked Jamal Hill out in the third round. What a knockout it was. Jamal tried. I've got to give him his props. And I know a lot of people don't like him for whatever reason, but a lot of heart went into that fight from him. A lot of heart went into it from Yuri. Two men who had come off very tough losses and who have gone through some difficult injuries as well. So I think, to me, they're some of the best fighters in the light heavyweight division. This was a fight to get your name back in the ring once the fight between Alex Pereira and Ankalaev is sorted. Yuri has definitely staked his claim, and Jamal Hill has to go back to the drawing board quickly. Who will they fight next? I think Yuri called out Alex Pereira. The next fight that would typically make sense is Yuri versus the winner. I can't lie to you, I would always be interested to see a fight between Yuri Prohaska and Alex Pereira. You could probably run that 5 times in a row. However, does Yuri need another fight? Yet to be determined from the UFC. This was a big fight between him and Jamal Hill. I think a fight between Jan and Jamal would be a good one. But the name I said was Rakic for Jamal Hill. It will be interesting to see what the UFC does. Do they try and run a Yuri versus Jan fight again? Do they try and do Jamal Hill versus Rakic? Will be interesting, but I think Jamal Hill versus Jan or Rakic makes sense, and then potentially Yuri versus the winner of Ankalaev versus Pereira, depending on results. But again, what a fight, thoroughly entertained, and would love to see both men back in the octagon. Next up, again, a brilliant fight that I was looking forward to on the main card, Jailton Almeida versus Spivak. And this fight, again, did not disappoint. I did not expect it to finish so quickly, but in the short time that we had this fight, man, both of these men went out and went out very, very well, because I knew it was going to be a grappling exchange. Both men are proficient on the ground. They started off exchanging really, really well. Jailton Almeida has definitely made improvements in his strikings. Spivak, we know, has always been relatively decent. The fight does get to the ground, and surprising to me, Spivak was actually in control on the ground. Jailton Almeida with a brilliant bit of groundwork to get himself in top position. Spivak actually reversed the position later on, and then Jailton Almeida actually fights out of it to get both men up and on the feet. Surprising to me, Jailton Almeida had the ability to put Spivak in a very difficult position, eventually took him down, laid him out, and literally with ground and pound took him out. Very, very impressive from Jailton Almeida. He's somebody I want to see against like the biggest and best in the division. Give him a Cyril Gane. I want to see him fight the best. He's got such a unique skill set. Spivak, again, what a performance, to be honest with you. Both men, I don't think, lost any stock in that performance. It was a quick finish, yes. However, both men continue to show why they're top 10 heavyweights and should be pushing towards the top 5. For Jailton Almeida, the loss to Curtis Blaydes obviously was a disappointment. I'll be interested to see him run that back with him. He should definitely be looking up. Out of all the men in the heavyweight division, we know Cyril Gane beat Volkov. How he did, I have no clue. You've also got Sergey and Curtis Blaydes in the top 5. If I was Jailton Almeida, he was doing so well against Curtis Blaydes until he got caught. That power could be a potential issue for him. I would say I'll be targeting Gane or Volkov. I think he can definitely do something with Volkov. He would have trouble with Volkov's range, definitely. Both men are bigger than him, no doubt about it. However, if he was able to get Garn on the ground, he could definitely submit him. Volkov with his long limbs, he could definitely be in trouble. If I was Jailton Almeida, I'm pushing for those two fights. Unless Jailton Almeida really wants to fight Curtis Blaydes again and go against Sergey, I'll just go against Volkov and Garn and just try and use my skill set to beat both of those men. From a Spivak point of view, he could fight anybody, to be honest with you. I know a lot of the heavyweights have fought each other already. Spivak versus Rovenstrike would be good. Tybura would be good. Him versus Curtis Blaydes, however, on a loss, I don't think he should really be fighting up again. So it will be very interesting to see what happens in the heavyweight division. Two fighters who present a skill set which is very difficult to fight against. Finally, on the main card, we had Kevin Holland versus Reina Derrida, and again, dominating victory, this time for Derrida, who executed his style to perfection. Kevin Holland looked like a fish out of water. The fight was over before it actually began. Derrida executed his game plan to perfection, got Kevin Holland down relatively easily, and executed very well in a number of scrambles, executed a good ground and pound game when it came to it, and then got Kevin Holland in a body lock, eventually got him in a rear naked choke and tapped him out. Again, Kevin Holland, we know what he's about. He's a company man. He's gonna do what he needs to do, welcoming the new fighters. He's gonna be that gatekeeper for the division, essentially. New people coming in that's got a bit of clout will put you against Kevin Holland. He's got a bit of a name. And this was another one of those fights where he either does really well or he gets absolutely blown out. And this was a fight where he got absolutely blown out. He's a little bit on a slip at the moment. It will be interesting to see who the UFC put him up against, but I'm sure it will be welcoming someone new or keeping his momentum, trying to keep him semi-hot without losing all of his relevance and his name value. Will be interesting. Derrida, again, two very good victories, Holland and Mershaw. Do you know what? I'd love to see Derrida against someone like MVP eventually. That would be a really interesting fight, given the clash of styles. And I think MVP would probably struggle if he was taken down, given his issues with the ground game as well. Finally, the final fight we're going to cover in the prelims was Peyton Talbot versus Barcelos. Someone said forward check for Talbot, and I can't deny this wasn't a good look for him. He completely controlled the fight from start to finish. Easy 3 rounds to 0 in my estimation. Complete domination on the ground. Executed a number of takedowns to absolute perfection, and Peyton's going to have to go back to the drawing board. This was a step up for him, a big step up. Barcelos has faced a number of high-level competition and has done well in his own right, and this was another example of what he's capable. Talbot, again, that hype can quickly die down for UFC prospects, and he is no exception. He will need to go back to the drawing board, potentially climb his way up in terms of level of opposition and see where he lands. For me, fight of the night was definitely Merab's victory over Umar. What a performance from him. Really also enjoyed the Yuri versus Jamal Hill fight as well. From my stance, I'll probably rate this card probably an 8 overall. I think the main event let it down, it being so uncompetitive, unfortunately for Renato. Knocked down the value of the card. Merab dominating and showing his quality was very enjoyable, and so was Yuri's victory against Jamal Hill. Guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'll catch you soon. It's been EDA. Peace.